Join me as I dive deep into my life and put God's plan to the test. Can I really find clarity and purpose in just 1 week? Have you ever stopped to think about whether God's plan is really working for you? I mean, we've all heard that phrase thrown around in church or from well-meaning friends, but what does it actually mean? Are you living a life that's aligned with God's purpose, or are you just going through the motions? These are the kinds of questions that can keep you up at night, wondering if you're on the right path. When we're trying to figure out God's plan for our lives, it's easy to get caught up in feelings of uncertainty and self-doubt. We start to wonder if we're good enough, if we're doing enough, or if we're even on the right track. These doubts can be overwhelming, leaving us feeling lost and alone. We start to question whether God's plan is even real, or if it's just something we tell ourselves to make us feel better. I think we've all been there at some point or another, feeling like we're just trying to make sense of this chaotic world, and wondering if God's plan is just a myth. We read verses like Jeremiah 29:11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." But how do we actually apply that to our everyday lives? It's easy to get stuck in the what-ifs and maybes, and to lose sight of the bigger picture. We've all heard stories of people who seem to have it all together, who are living this perfect Christian life, and we can't help but wonder, why isn't that me? Why am I still stuck in this rut, feeling like I'm not living up to my full potential? It's a painful and lonely place to be, and it's easy to feel like we're the only ones struggling. The Bible tells us that God's plans are not our plans, and that His ways are higher than ours. But what does that even mean? Does it mean we just blindly follow along, hoping that everything will work out in the end? Or is there more to it than that? I want to explore these questions and more, and to dive deeper into what it means to live a life that's aligned with God's plan. One of the things that's always stood out to me is the story of Joseph in the Bible. Here's a guy who was sold into slavery by his brothers, and yet he ends up becoming one of the most powerful men in Egypt. It's a crazy story, and one that's full of twists and turns. But the thing that always gets me is that Joseph never gave up. He never lost sight of God's plan, even when things seemed darkest. And in the end, he was able to say with confidence that God had been with him the whole time. I've had my own share of struggles and doubts over the years, times when I felt like I was completely lost and alone. But one thing that's always brought me back is the realization that God's plan is not about me, it's about Him. It's about His glory, and His kingdom, and His purposes. And when I shift my focus away from myself and onto Him, that's when things start to fall into place. One of the most profound realizations I've had is that God's plan is not something we find, it's something we surrender to. It's not about figuring everything out and getting all the answers, it's about trusting in His goodness and His sovereignty. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to a whole new level of freedom and purpose. As I look back on my own journey, I realize that God's plan has been working in my life all along, even when I didn't understand it, even when I didn't see it. And I want to encourage you to take a step back and look at your own life with fresh eyes. Ask yourself, is God's plan really working for you? Are you living a life that's aligned with His purposes? In conclusion, I want to leave you with a challenge today. Take some time to reflect on your own life, and to ask yourself those hard questions. Are you living a life that's aligned with God's plan, or are you just going through the motions? Take a step of faith today, and trust that God's plan is working for you, even when you can't see it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to share your own experiences in the comments below. If you want more inspiring content, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in the next video.